Lisa,
Yes.
not your average mother runner podcast host.
Yes.
And she's significantly annoyed with me. And
I am not. I promise you I'm not.
recently, I was a guest on your podcast,
Mhm.
and um, and it was definitely like I was just some other schmo that you were doing some study on men, and it wasn't like, hey, I want to have this wrestler, I want to have this actor on my podcast. You're like, no, I just want to talk to males. I don't care what you do or who you are. Don't plug your crap. I don't care.
I did not say that.
Yeah, but that was the vibe.
That was the vibe.
Yeah, no. So I then was like, yeah, can we schedule something because I want to have a conversation with you on my show where it's like we're just kind of like, you know, kind of getting to know each other a little bit. Like instead of being like a structured thing where I have a bunch of questions that I have written out. I don't really do that. That's not my thing. But I like to just kind of like have a laid back, cool conversation and see if we can learn things from each other.
Okay.
Like, and at the end of it, last time you were like, really, do you want me? I'm not good for your show. You were trying to downplay yourself. Like,
Well, I didn't understand because I thought, you're a wrestler and I thought you have wrestlers. I don't know.
no, no. I at like 195 other episodes of the show, and only like six wrestlers have ever been on the show.
Oh, okay.
That's just a guess. I don't know, but most of my guests aren't wrestlers. They're just people who I find interesting and fascinating, and maybe we can learn some cool life lessons from each other. It's kind of the point of like me calling it Evolving with Corey Castle, not just because I'm Corey Castle and I host it. It's like listen while I'm also evolving with you.
Okay.
So like the type of person, the type of host I guess I was in the beginning is hopefully not the kind of host I am currently or will be in the future.
Okay.
It's an ever evolving process. That's why I always say like you got it wrong because you weren't ready to get it right yet. Like that's with a lot of things.
Right. Right.
So what inspired you? What inspired you? Why did you want to? I know like you went through like some transformations. You were changing your life around, and you were, at that point were like, I'm going to start a podcast that kind of just empowers women and makes people feel like running school.
um, no, I think I always wanted to do a podcast. Like I always wanted to you know, I always wanted to do some sort of where I'm using my voice platform. And it was when 2020 was coming about, I had a friend and I was like, let's just do it. Cause she's like, oh, I've always wanted to do a podcast too. I was like, okay, let's just do it. And she's not local. So I started with her and it was really like a casual type podcast where we're just, talking about different topics as women. And it started getting like really successful really fast. And it became like a business.
Okay.
And she's my friend and we both had different business perspectives or views on how to handle business. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm a go-getter. I have the idea and then I run with it. And she really wanted to, and there's nothing wrong with that. And she really likes to like plan it out. And I mean, I plan things out and I would say I'm in the middle, but she really wants to kind of perfect it. Well, and at the end of the day, we just had two different views on business and we decided to end that podcast. And
What was that podcast called?
so I'm Latina. So it was called Living La Vida Latina. That's what it was
Oh,
called. And it
so
was just basic.
look, you just gave me the old sass, get your shit together, and here you can't even say the name of your own show.
No, no, because it was a while. Corey,
I'm, I'm kidding. I'm messing
he's
around.
giving you the eye right now.
I
So,
see it.
anyways, no, it was a while ago. So, anyway,
No,
so at that point, I just ran with it and did my own thing, and it just kind of like went from there.
are you an an avid listener of podcasts? Like, what podcasts are you into?
Oh yeah. Like I love Joe Rogan. Like I could listen to him for hours. Like I know that his podcast, I mean it's crazy that it's like 2 hours long. Dude, I'd be listening to that. I like the fact that he had all these different people on. I love MMA. I love that he had those people on. I love that he brought, the nutrition, the athletic type person. I was all about that. And I just thought he was funny. I mean, some of the stuff, I would be like, okay. But for the most part, he was definitely the one that was my go to, was him.
Mm. I'm right there with you.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I'd say it was an accumulation of a few shows that I'd listen to, and I'd be like, as a listener, I want my show to be just like the shows I like. So that's why I'd like take examples and take kind of like vibes and cadences from like some of my favorite podcasts. So I have a very similar origin story for a podcast, because I had another podcast first with my friends, and it stopped working. Like we just couldn't get on the same page for a while, and then it was called Pod Trash. We did it for like a year, and this was like 2012, and we were like, you know what? Let's repackage. Like we took like a good break, and we were like, let's repackage. So we repackaged it as a show that was about pro wrestling. So the show about pro wrestling is called Wrestle Rock. It was called Wrestling Rock Radio, and we changed it to just Wrestle Rock. But it was just us just talking for like an hour about pro wrestling, and it's like, as that's going on, I was like, you know what? This isn't like the shows I like, and I mean, when it comes to like talking about personality and talking things about beyond just the realm, the niche of just pro wrestling and the TV product that's going on. So like, I figured I'd also do this. So that's why I started doing this, and I still do that. I mean, we do it like once a week, and I talk about pro wrestling with my best friends, and that's fun. But I like to also have people who my best friends have also been on my podcast, and we just talked about real life stuff. Talk about some hood rat stuff with my friends.
I wouldn't know what that is.
No, that was just a joke word. But yeah, we just talk about silly goofball stuff.
Yeah. No, that's. I mean, I listen to other ones, but if I listen to other podcasts, it was really like to get educated as well. Like, I would listen to running podcast, nutrition podcast, or, just that kind of thing. And even though it was informative, it was just very like, they're reading off a script. Where I really liked how Rogan is just being like himself, and he's just like chilling with the person, which is kind of like how I am. So, it was nice to hear something like that where it was just having conversations. So, but I would say him.
I mean, this is maybe the second time we've talked, and I think you can tell I'm a pretty go with the flow type of person. Really, when I just like figure it out, and I'm not like trying to stick to any rigid. This needs to be this way, and but then you're like, hey, I'm an on-call person all the time, so I don't have time to be dicking around in your go with the flow nature.
That is not what happened, Corey. Okay, you had a certain time, and that was the time I was waiting for you.
Yeah. I'm it upsets me that like I really I don't mean to offend my friends. Like sometimes my friends are like, "Oh, we said this time on the dot." I'm like, but and my girlfriend's like, set alarms on your phone. And I'm like, yeah, but then I have to remember to set the alarm. Whoops. I'm just a very scattered, unorganized boy.
You don't say.
I'm working on it. I'm a work in progress. It's an evolving process, and we're all working on ourselves all the time.
That's very true. Very true.
So what are like the like archetypes? What are the outliers? You're like, wow, that's a woman that really inspires me. Like as a woman, this woman really drives me to want to be something better. Some maybe to expand your voice, like expand your podcast and have other women hear it. Because I'm sure you've done a lot for moms. You know, a lot of women tuned into your show and
Hmm.
got a lot out of it. And I was wondering what kind of stuff would be like. Who would be to your fans? Who would you be a fan of?
Oh,
Just like
yeah.
your.
Okay. So I like women who, I feel like if they, well, first of all, it's people you resonate with, like they're relatable to you, right?
Mhm.
So I like women who are like, they've been through stuff, they've been through very challenging times, and they've overcome it on their own. Those are the women that I was like, wow, she did that by herself. She overcame that. Like to me, that's very empowering. I mean, that's just for me. I mean, I know with other people it could be different things, but for me, it really comes down to somebody who is on their own, and that's not to say if someone is not on their own that's not empowering, but for me, that's what I resonate with. Someone who is on their own, overcame some really hardships, and just did it on their own, and is successful, because then that's what I it makes it's relatable to me, and then that's what empowers me to keep going, so that it's saying, hey, I could do it too, right?
Mhm. What's up? What's some of the obstacles? Like, what's some of the? I mean, you're a single mom, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it could be anything. I mean, I've had some women on the show who, I mean, that I wouldn't know how that was. Like, for instance, I had a woman who had like a diving accident, and she like became a quadriplegic. And the fact that she had these dreams to become a chef in San Francisco, and then she became a quadriplegic, and yet she still has not let go of that dream. And she's actually, before COVID happened, she was actually teaching cooking and classes at a local, food co-op place. She was still
Wow.
living her dream.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, like my God, she did that. And I mean that anything is possible, that she hasn't given up on her dreams. So, and I mean, I'm not a quad, but even that's hearing her talk like that, that's empowering. And, it could be another woman who just had like really horrific debt as a single mother. I mean, again, it's not something that I completely is relatable. I mean, maybe somewhat, but not to the point where I mean, she was over, I think she was like over $300,000 in debt. And
Ah,
yeah, and she slashed that on her own as
yeah.
a single mom with two kids. So it's just like when you hear those types of stories, it's not very specific in the type of tragedy. It doesn't have to be a tragedy, but just any type of obstacle.
I know when I was on your show and you're asking me a lot of questions and I don't know if I brought it up, but like I was raised by a single mom
Hmm.
and she diagnosed with MS when I was 12 years old.
Hmm.
Um, so I have a lot of I have a lot of respect for my mother. I have a lot of respect for women who inspire other women, and my mom inspires me a lot when it comes to like she did all that. She 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 came out of the closet as a lesbian. She talked about that on my podcast. Talked about on the podcast to say like when she told this is why I want to have people on my podcast that just fascinate me because I know this is a time capsule, right? I know this is we're not gonna outlive this audio. This audio is gonna go way past us. So I want to say on these messages on the record, I'm really fascinated by you, and I want to learn more. And I want to let you know that like the fact that you have this call that goes like the messages need to be heard by other women to empower other women, and I love that. But
There's a but.
No, there's no but. There's no but.
Okay.
No, the but was more about like. So that being said,
Okay.
thank you for your effort. Thank you for like I'm probably don't get thanked enough. Here's the thing. When you talked about that debt as a single mom, I think about my brother and my sisters, and thinking about like maybe they don't tell my mom as often how grateful they are. I love who I am. I love who I am. And I always think about how my mother was someone else before she had kids. That identity died. Like her life was not hers anymore. It was the life that was to like nature, you know what I mean? To have us be what her life is now.
Right.
So she went from being just Mary Beth to being mom now. And just the Mary Beth doesn't really exist. She's mom, mommy. Like that's just it. And that's what you're doing for your daughter. Mm. And I hope that one day when she listens back to some of the stuff you've done, and it's gonna be great because this is gonna outlive you. And this technology didn't exist, and it really, me wanting to do this and having that point to make is when I started doing it. My mom said to me, she had saved these voicemails that like her best friend who passed and her mom who had passed left her on her old phone. She put them on a CD. She was like, "Oh, I have to have these because you know how like when someone passes, you forget what their voice sounds like." I'm like, "Oh, I don't want that. I want you to hear me become from like the 33-year-old version of me up until I'm planning on doing this till I'm not in the world anymore." Like that's so anyone can go back and like listen to what the evolution of Corey Castle was, as far as like only wanting to put these good messages out and only wanting to make people understand that like you're not alone. You're not alone in your suffering. Your suffering makes you who you are. And show me somebody who's lived a life without suffering, and I'll show you somebody who hasn't lived at all.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, that does make a lot of sense. So you had your mom on the show?
Yeah. Yeah.
And she came out on the show?
No. My mom's been out for years.
Oh, like, okay. But
she just told me this. She told me the story about how when she was giving birth to my sister and she was sick, she got pneumonia because she was such a heavy smoker when she was pregnant. So my sister was born premature, and the nurse that was taking care of her, she was like, "Am I falling in love with this lady?" And then she was struggling with her feelings. And
really?
Yeah. And then she got out of the hospital and she got pregnant again. so she just bottled it down.
So did she? Now I'm curious. So this. Okay, so she got pregnant.
So her and my dad split up again. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They got back together and broke up more times than I can count. But the last time they got back together, she wasn't out yet. And then she was like, she knew it. She knew what she was, but she wasn't outwardly admitting it.
Yeah.
And she was just trying to make it work for the sake of the kids, like what a lot of women will do. A lot of parents will do it. Just want to get through it to help the kids. And it's not really helping them very much because they'd sense it,
Yeah.
So after her and my dad split up, she was like, okay, yeah. She brought me, I remember her bringing me into her bedroom, and she was like, sit down. I got to have a serious talk with you. And I was like, okay. She's like, Julie asked me if I was a lesbian, and I said yes. How does that make you feel? And I went, I don't care. Like, you're still my mom. You're still, to me, and I actually I was talking to my mom about this the other day. To me, that's the only person who I've ever had that's a consistent, like I can always talk to her about anything going on, like no boundaries. My mom's there, you know what I mean? And I never went, oh, you're a lesbian now? Ew. Like I'm going to love you. I'm going to love unconditionally.
How old were you when she said this to you?
I was like 12, 13, something like that.
Oh, wow.
And I don't remember. I think I was like 12 or 13.
Mhm.
Probably like 97, something like that.
Yeah.
I was like I was in like 6th or 7th grade, something like that. Yeah, and then like 2 years after that, she was diagnosed with MS, and then
Oh, wow.
from that, then my brother came out as gay, and my sister then came out as gay.
No.
Yeah, and I was the only straight person in my house.
Are you serious?
Yeah, yeah. And then my parents got back together.
What?
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. No. Okay. So I wasn't the only straight person in my house. So my parents were broken up for most of my life, right? So when I was, this is weird because anybody who's listened to this podcast has heard the story a million times, but you haven't heard it a million times. So I'm gonna just tell it to you. So when I was 9 months old, my parents were married and they had 3 kids. My babysitter was my 14-year-old uncle's girlfriend, and she and my dad were having an affair. My dad was like 26. So then parents split. My mom was, desperate, living in her mom's basement, like working night shifts and being on welfare and just, trying to get by. And that's why I always say like, oh, I'm so grateful to her because she did the best she could possibly do. She was really ill-equipped to handle like three kids, broke, welfare, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So then when they got back together years later, he was like, everything's going to be different. Everything's going to be different. She got pregnant again. And my little sister was born in like 95. My little sister was born. Then he was not changing. Nothing was changing. He was still kind of being abusive. I'm just going to say abusive because I don't want to get too specific about it, but he was being abusive. We left. And then it was just me, my older brother, my older sister, and my mom raising a baby. Right. So that's how my little sister Jess, she's 25 now. I'm just proud of the woman she is. She's such a great person. So when I say I was the only straight person in the house, not true, because she was a baby. We didn't know yet.
Yeah.
I was the only confirmed straight person. However, like I said on your show, I was not popular with the ladies at all most of my life.
Now, I can't remember. Was it because, did you say that you were just shy? Were you overweight? You weren't overweight, were you?
No. I was a wrestler. I was training to be a wrestler. I was a wrestling fan. So I started training to be a wrestler when I was 14 years old. So I was on top. Okay, I was kind of skinny fat. I was kind of skinny fat. I had a stupid haircut and I had really bad eyesight. So I would like wear these thick glasses and I hated to wear them. So sometimes I wouldn't wear them and I would just kind of like be oblivious to the world. And I was like living in my own little bubble and no one really ever talked to me and I was also a sped kid. I was in special ed. So there's a little bit of a disconnect. Like I only was in like small classrooms with other challenged kids. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really have a lot of interactions with the kids outside of that, except for like gym class and whatever other extra classes there are. But
and then when you became a wrestler, a big time wrestler, then the women were flocking to you.
No, I've never been a big time wrestler, and I've never had women flocking to me.
Are you sure, Corey?
Sure, we can act like that's the perception. Sure. I mean, the perception sometimes is reality. People think that. I mean, I don't think women have ever flocked to me at all. Like, I don't think that's ever been. I mean, I would love that. I would love to have no, honestly, and not because I want to have the options. It's that I want to have my voice heard by people, and I think women would appreciate the messages more if they like made the effort to listen.
You mean the women that you dealt with made the effort to listen?
No, not the women that I dealt with. I'm talking about like the wide scope, of the fan base. If I had the fan base,
Oh,
just a listener base
yeah.
of like women who would be like, wow, there are decent men. You know what I mean? There are good people, and it's not about men or women or gender, but I think more feminine energy can understand that than insecure, homophobic pro wrestling fans.
Is that really what the fans are? Like, is that
Well,
the gist
some
of
of
the
them,
fan?
are stuck. Some of them are stuck in like it seems like when you go to certain wrestling shows, there are people there who are stuck in like 2003, and they just have never gotten out of it.
Well, remember when was it like 2 years ago that they had, was it WrestleMania, and it was mostly women, and that apparently was like a big freaking deal.
It was. It
And
was.
I didn't know that. Like everyone was talking about it. I'm like, why is it a big deal? And I guess you guys never had women headlining, the
No,
show.
it's been the best time as far when you say you guys. I wasn't a part of it. Like that's
No, I
WWE.
mean
That's
like,
right.
yeah,
Like
I'm talking
the,
about that whole
that
thing.
the big realm of like pro wrestling fans.
Right.
This is the best time for women's wrestling ever. Like women's wrestling has always been like a real side. It's been like a side attraction. Sounded like sort of like if you go to the live events. You go to the live events. There's always like people getting up and going to get soda or something, except for like the young demographic who wants to watch the bra and panty pillow fight, But that's not the way it is anymore. Now it's like they're getting in the ring and doing the same things that we as the men in wrestling are doing,
Yeah.
which is great for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree on that one.
Yeah, it's an evolution. It's for sure an evolution, and it's the way it should have been going for a long time. It's just a matter of how it gets managed now, like how they manage it going forward, because it's like they're still afraid to do like intergender, which sure, like men and women interacting, but like they will have a man get in there with a woman and just get beat up by her and not do anything. And it's like, because if he does anything, then it's promoting domestic violence. But if she beats him up, it's not. Like, where's the equality in that?
Yeah, that's kind of that's a bit tough
Yeah.
to balance that. So
Yeah.
you said why did you say you guys? Like what? So
Because I've never been like I've never been like major leagues of wrestling. I've never been in the WWE. When you said you guys, I took that as like the WWE had done that, and I don't have any associations with them. I mean, I worked for the WWE in 2009 as an extra, and that's the extent of it. That's all I've done. That's the extent of it. Like, I have a lot of friends there, and I don't want to claim that I'm a big deal, because I'm not signed, never been signed, never made a living doing this, and at this point, I don't think I'll ever be signed as an in-ring performer because I'm too old, and I have a I don't know if I told you about this either. I had and the people listening to the show will hear it a million times. I had brain surgery in 2011, so they don't want to take any chances on me, I'm sure.
yeah, I think you posted something about that. I didn't understand what that was about.
Okay. What did you not understand?
Well, you said something about an accident or something. Did you have like a seizure or
I
something?
did. Yeah, I had a big seizure while I was in the shower in 2011, and my mom saved my life during that. And I had a seizure while I was in the shower. The shower curtain wrapped around my face, and I broke the toilet. I went through the back of the toilet like that, and smashed my head on the back of the toilet. So they thought that was what the problem was, that was what messed my head up. But it was actually up in the frontal lobe. I had an AVM that they had the resection. So an arterial venous malformation.
Yeah.
And they had to straighten those veins up there. And they got a craniotomy, which is like, I don't know if you see how like my head kind of dips here. Like I have a little dip right there in my head.
Yeah.
They peeled my face off. They like cut me from ear to ear, and then they peeled my face off. And they fixed all my junk and then put it back up.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't want to tell you.
Yeah, you don't need to be. I mean, no, I mean, I get it. I get it.
But that's why this like fat deposit never filled back in, is what I'm saying.
Okay. So that's something that would never take a chance on. But then I've heard that you guys, okay, I don't mean you guys, but I've heard that wrestlers in general are always like have issues, back issues, all of that.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's funny. It's funny because most guys, most men and women who are wrestlers have like a lot of knee problems, back problems, like collarbone tears, concussions. Like that's just part of the thing. I don't think I've had, knock on wood, I've never had any knee injuries or back injuries. Like I've never broken any bones, or like I broke my nose probably 7 times, but I mean, it's not anything major. I've broken toes and fingers and stuff, but never like anything that like kept me out for a really long time. The longest I've been out of wrestling, the longest I've been out of the ring, so since I was 14 years old. So 1998 was when I first got into a ring for the first time. The longest I've gone without taking bumps and hitting the ropes and stuff is like 8 months, maybe. I say 13 months, but I think I was in the ring training again before the 13 months. But that was, after the surgery.
oh wow.
Yeah, it was and then during COVID, I hadn't been in a ring. It's been probably about 6 months that I've been in a ring. Probably been about 6 months since I've been in a ring.
So when you say, okay, so this is where I don't understand, like, and because I do watch wrestling, I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there's these different leagues. I don't know if you call it leagues, companies, I don't know. And, okay. All right. And so like when I hear, like, for instance, I had that woman that was on my podcast. She was a wrestler, and she's like, she wrestles, and I'm thinking, okay, she's not signed, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So you're like a freelancer, but then are you just like representing yourself and you're just going to different fights, different shows?
Yeah. Like it's kind of like, where you've had people see your work and want to utilize you, want to use you to help sell tickets or whatever. That's something you're kind of doing independently. Like when you're signed, you're in like WWE, which is Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and that umbrella. And then if you're in AEW, which is just the show that comes on TNT.
Yeah.
And that's so if you're not working for those two places, you're independent, really.
Oh, okay. And do you get paid?
Barely. I mean, people in cover bands get more money and more respect than we do.
Are you? So you guys don't get, like, why do you do it? You must love it.
It's like you're a big fan of it, and it's like in your heart to do it. Like really, honestly, like I said, it's all I've ever done. So I've spent my entire adult life doing this, and I don't know anything else. Right. But of course, like I do know other things. Like I'm acting and I'm doing comedy, but like with those things, it's like these are alternatives to the spotlight that needs to be that look at me hole that's in my heart.
Yeah.
Like where it's like, oh, I'm this attention seeking sort of like, oh, I didn't get enough attention, and I need it through this avenue.
So you have like this alter ego when you get in the ring, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm hopefully as much as me as I am. Like, I try to, base it in reality, but at the same time, I just go with what fascinates me. So if I'm like, oh, like, psychology is really important to me in matches, and you'll probably hear that if you talk to other wrestlers. Psychology in matches and why things are happening when they're happening makes sense, and I like to be able to teach that onto people, like while we're having matches. I'm like, you see where we got them, like see what we're doing, feel how that felt, was that good, like that. And it's kind of like I'm directing it as I'm doing it.
Well, she said that there's like there's like a gameplay, game planning, I guess. She wouldn't tell me a lot. She just said she couldn't tell me too much, but she did.
That's an ancient, like the
secret?
magician never tells their secrets. In pro wrestling, they have that, and that's called kayfabe, Kayfabe. It's a kind of like a protect the business, protect the work of the business. So we're not gonna, like, most people who are still subscribed to the idea of kayfabe won't tell you much at all. Won't tell you much about it at all. We'll just kind of protect the secrets. But like any of that stuff that you want to find out on the internet, you can find it out. So I'm not really protecting kayfabe anymore. So okay. Like if you were to say to somebody who was protecting kayfabe, do you get paid? Yeah. They would automatically tell you yes, they get paid. If you get paid $20 and you spent $30 in gas to get there, you're not really getting paid. Like,
so wait a minute, it's called kayfabe.
Yeah.
Kayfabe. Why?
I don't know. I don't know why it's called that. That's just the word that's been used. Like a lot of it stems from carny stuff. Like, so pro wrestling stems back to like the carnival scene.
I did not know that. I'm learning today from you, Corey.
So there was a lot of carny was used to protect the work of it. So people wouldn't know that it was planned out. People didn't know that that I didn't hate the guy. I don't hate the guy that's standing across from me. Actually, the guy that's standing across from me that we're having a match with is more of my partner than the guy who's in my tag team if I'm in a tag match. Like, we are feeding off of each other. He's making me look good because I'm making him look good. And when we win or lose, neither one of us is really winning anything or losing anything. Right. It's part of the story. It's part of the show. It's part of the spectacle. It's show business. It's not a fight. It's the illusion of a competition. And it's just like in a fight scene in a movie when a guy gets knocked out with one punch. That guy didn't really get knocked out. Like, right. It was just part of the punch. It was part of the story.
Why did they? I feel like I'm the one interviewing you right now.
Oh, yeah, you are. And
I'm interested.
That's fine.
I'm picking your brain because I really didn't. I knew when I interviewed you, you were a wrestler, but I really didn't get a chance to talk about that kind of stuff because that wasn't the point of the interview.
Right. The point of the interview was not to
talk about your
relationship stuff.
Yeah. So so why do they do like the whole manager thing? Like, why do they have, because like that was the thing she said. She's like, oh, well, I asked her, who did you know that was famous? Have you ever met any famous wrestlers? She's like, oh yeah, tons of them. And she's telling me some of the names. And she's like, oh, well, I didn't fight him because I thought she was fighting against a guy. And she's like, no, I was his manager. So why do they do that? Like, how did that come? I don't understand that.
Well, on the indies, mostly a lot of times it's tough because there's different reasons for it. If maybe like they wanted to give her a spot on the show, but like couldn't give her a match. They're like, oh, well, how would you like to manage this person? This way also, like, if they're a heel, you can assist with the cheating and they can hate that guy more if you're with him,
Oh.
or it's an accessory for like the heat, as we would call it. Um, it would be it's I don't like having managers because I think that steals my heat. I feel like I'm good enough to get my own heat, and I don't want you to steal it. But some more inexperienced wrestlers who might need help getting heat would have a manager on them, or if when it comes to talking on the microphone, they can't articulate as well, or they don't have a good enough voice for it, or it would be like if someone's like a big badass looking dude, and then you hand him the microphone and he's, listen, I don't think you're gonna beat me because I can beat you. Like they give it to a manager, and the manager would be like, this guy right here, this guy. It's for like,
Oh, okay.
this guy right here is gonna kill you.
That
We
makes
had a conversation.
sense.
What's that?
That makes sense.
Right.
It really does. I mean, seriously, it does. It does make sense.
Yeah, and it's. I mean, there's other reasons for it. Sometimes the people who manage people are the people who have. I hate saying this. On the indies, it's the people get manager spots because they sold tickets to their friends. They gave money to the promoter, and the promoter used their money and put them on the show as a manager. It's like the same reason, like it's hard to get paid to do it. Some people pay to be involved because like they're such fans of it. They don't know anything else. Yeah. So some people will pay a promoter, and like that adds value to them. So then they get to steal heat from heels all night, and it sucks. For me, I don't like that, but
yeah,
some people do.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I didn't, like I said, I didn't think I was going to learn anything today from you, Corey.
Well,
I'm learning.
I hope that someone always has something to learn or to teach. I definitely wanted to ask you what your growing up was like. I mean, are you like upstate New York? Is that where you're from?
Very good, Corey.
So did you come from? Did you have like mother and father? Did you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I had brothers. I had a brother. I have a half sister. My parents, for the most part, were together.
For the most part.
And then they split up when I was like older.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I'm in upstate New York.
So was it like a strict childhood? Did you like have to like be very strict on like following the rules?
What makes you think that it was a strict childhood, Corey?
Because it seems this way when I speak to some. No, hang on, I didn't get to it. What it seems like. I don't mean you specifically. I'm saying like when I speak to people who had both parents, a lot of times they're like, well, we weren't allowed to do this, we weren't allowed to do that, we weren't allowed to do this, we had to be in by this. Everybody had like what we weren't allowed to watch, what we weren't allowed to say. That's why that was just a generality. It wasn't like it seemed that way with you.
Well, it was like that with me.
So that exists for a reason.
No, it was. My dad was very strict.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was very strict. We couldn't play in the house. We were meant to, if we were kids and it's nice outside, we had to be outside playing. He didn't like us, messing stuff up. And, my mom wasn't as strict, but she was strict. I mean, we had chores. We didn't have that many chores. I'll be honest with you. We really didn't. We just had like a routine. But I mean, it was where I remember my mother telling me I couldn't put my elbow on the damn table. I couldn't put my elbows on the table. I couldn't I couldn't put my arm like on the arm of the chair, like the back of the chair at the dinner table.
Oh yeah, those are supposed to be manners.
Yeah, so there was things like that we weren't allowed to do that just drove me nuts. And it was for the most part. I wouldn't say it was like really strict to the point where, it was terrible, but it was definitely different than how I raised my kid.
Catholic?
Yeah. Yep.
Catholic? Did
It
you
was
go to
cat.
church every Sunday?
I went
Hang
to
out at fun time mass?
No, I went to Catholic school, so I didn't have to
Man,
go.
I was in Catholic school and we had to go to mass every Sunday. That was like part of it. Like
I
I'm
mean,
like,
she
don't we get
wanted
enough
us.
of this in school?
Well, I mean, we went like, but it wasn't like something that had to be. It wasn't where we went every Sunday. I mean, it was something that we did. But yeah, I mean, that's the other part. I was in Catholic school, and I was in Catholic school when uh nuns were there. It was nuns, and they were able to touch you.
Mhm.
Like if you were doing something, they would grab your hand and pull it and put soap in your mouth.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
that was the time that I went to school, that they were allowed. Nowadays you can't even touch it
Uh,
the head of a
I was
child.
only in Catholic school for first grade again, second grade, and third grade. So just for 4 years. I was only in Catholic school for 4 years. But that, like I said, I had to repeat the first grade. But I had a nun who was very strict with me, and actually I give her a lot of credit for being able to like read now. Like she really was strict on me and made it so that I would not give up on being able to read. Like someone other than my mom or my grandmother smacking me was like, okay, all right, I'll listen, I'll learn.
Well, I was in Catholic school all my life.
So, do you get smacked up a lot by some nuns?
No, I didn't. I didn't get touched or anything. I got yelled at a lot for talking, or like if I couldn't like sit on the side of my desk. I had to sit straight. I had to
Right.
look forward. But I hated them. I hated every one of them.
And what's your relationship with that now? Like, do you go like, oh well, I will. For me personally, like anybody who like I hated when I was a kid, I'm like, I needed that. I'm
No,
grateful for that. I like who I
no,
am now.
nope,
Like, you
nope,
still carry
no,
that.
no, dude. It's not. It was no. The things that they would yell at us for was just stupid, and it wasn't even like anything that was trying to instill anything in me. No, I was a good kid. I mean, I was straight A student. It was just stupid crap that they would get mad at us for. So no, no, Corey, no. And I hated that whole. My daughter right now goes to Catholic school just because we're not in the best school district, but I'm slowly getting her out. I'm just not. And it's different now, though. It's not run by nuns or brothers. It's the teachers are not nuns.
Mhm.
Um, but it was just a different time. I really hated it.
How old is your daughter?
9.
Okay, so she's getting to the point where like she kind of gets it. Like
Yeah.
like where she's like conscious of what what the school is what it is. It's like you're in this school because not because we buy into all that stuff, not because like we subscribe to every single thing they tell you to subscribe to.
Well, this is I mean, it's a good I'll say this, they instill really good things about
Yeah,
respecting each other and
yeah.
being kind,
The
and
values are
the
genuine.
values were very are that I will say that they're doing in her school. I don't think they didn't do that when I was in school. I hated it. I hated Catholic school. But right now she hates the uniforms, but she does have those values, and I think she's ready to go to public school, to be honest with you.
Well, um, it was weird for me when I was probably 9 or 10 when I went to public school from Catholic school, and it was like it was weird having to have clothes to wear every day because like we were the poor kids, so we had to rewear all the stuff. As a kid, those labels are it's like the brands and stuff and the labels. And Rogan was just talking about this with someone on the podcast about like they would like glue the alligators onto Izod shirts or something, and it's like it really you feel like if you don't have the newest, nicest clothes, you're not as cool.
Yeah,
Like
but do you see the kids that are dressed now? Come on. They don't have that crap that we did. They go to school with jogging pants and a t-shirt and flip-flops. It was socks and flip-flops. I mean, I think it's a different.
Yeah, it
Don't you
is a
think it's
different
a little-
climate. Oh, I hope so. I hope so. For the sake of, for the sake of our kids. I
Yeah.
hope that when I say our kids, I don't mean mine because I don't have any, but I'm saying like I'm saying like
Yes.
our generation's
yeah.
children. You know what I mean?
That you know of.
Oh,
Yeah.
see, that's another thing when people say, "Oh, you don't have any that you know of." People say that to me. I'm like, "No, I know that I haven't done enough to have ones that I wouldn't know of."
It only takes one time, Corey. One shot.
If you had one opportunity. So it's funny because normally what I would do is I would switch it on you and I'd say, here's your opportunity. Since this is all on the record, this is a timestamp in 2020 quarantine. We're never as much right now as we are. You know what I mean? And I'm sure this episode is going to come out in a couple of months. You know what I mean? So it's going to be a different right now when people listen to this.
I might be scared. And I'm going to say, oh my God. Oh my God.
the opportunity for you to like say a thing on the record that would say what this time frame has meant to you and like what we can learn from it and how we can evolve through it. The optimism.
So what do you want me to say? What I think is going to happen? Say something that I want to happen?
Yeah. Or what's been getting you through? What's been getting you through these times?
Oh, the COVID thing?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm honestly the podcast.
Yeah. You know what? It's gonna make us sick to hear the fact that like every podcast we ever listen to, all they ever talk about is the COVID, and I'm so sure
I don't talk about that a lot. I'll be honest with you.
So
people are sick.
tired of talking about it.
I know, but it's a reality though. I mean, but I be honest with you, what got me through is because we don't get to see, like if I was doing these podcasts, I'd probably be talking to people face to face. I would probably be doing it face to face. But because of the situation, it's through Zoom, and like you and I, we're doing it through Skype, and I'm meeting all these different people from all over the world that I probably wouldn't have done.
Yeah, that's the incredible thing that I take from it too. Almost the exact same thing. It's like I've been able to have a ton more conversations with people because more people are going to be home to agree to do it. And also like my podcast has never had such a video element before. Not that the video part isn't even that important, but on the YouTube channel, people can watch it. If they want to watch it, they can watch most of the episodes. But
am I going to be on video?
No, not this one, because you've already asked for it just to be the audio. So of course it's going to just be the audio. But for all the other ones, like people can see the video of it. And it's funny when it came to who actually watches it, it seems like, and I feel like I've said it seems like a lot on this episode, and I didn't mean to. This episode brought to you by the phrase "seems like." the audience on the YouTube page, it seems like it's mostly women like that are watching it more than men.
Watching your podcast?
Yeah.
I think they're watching you.
No, I don't know. I hope so. But I mean, if anything, there's like, if anything, there's like 5 or 6 of them. Like, it's not like it has an amazing amount of views.
Okay.
So the consequences are so low. It just adds another element, mostly, so people can have something to look at.
Yeah.
Like, I think when I talked to like my cousin, he's a big Joe Rogan podcast fan. And he's like, oh yeah, I watch them on YouTube. I'm like, oh, I just listen to them on the thing. He's like, oh, it's more visual. I like to watch. I like to see the
people like that
body language. Yeah. I guess that I mean, I guess that would be why people would watch the video of a conversation. And it's cool because like I've gotten to have more like guests and you know, instead of check it out. I have somebody over here sitting with the microphone, me over here. It's like it's not as compelling to be able to like look at you and then look at me.
Yep. I agree.
Like I had a couple episodes on my YouTube page that are like the laptop is sitting all the way over there and like shooting at the couches and watching us sitting here doing it. And it's just, I don't think it fascinates people as much as being able to see my entire face or see your entire face while we're having a conversation. But disclaimer, if you subscribe to the YouTube page, you're not going to see the episode with Lisa. It's not going to be on there.
Well, I mean, how do I look? I don't know. I didn't really get dressed for this, you know?
Yeah, I get it. I mean, me either. But all of my episodes have been like me coming home from the gym and like wearing cutoff shirts.
I mean, if you think that I guess I could say yes. Maybe I'll bring you more viewers.
Maybe.
Maybe more.
Well, honestly, there's so much more that like I know I could do, but it's like I don't want to say that like I'm like lazy at it because like I do throw the work in, and I know like effort is so much, but it's like I'm throwing a lot of effort out doing it. You know what I mean? And then it's like if I throw more effort into doing something else and that gets nothing, it's almost discouraging. And I hate I hate looking at the stats, and I hate like getting upset when they're low, or you know, like it's not like a lot of people are watching it and then someone's like, "Hey, that sucks." Like that would discourage me, right? Like it would discourage anybody, but it's not even that. It's like I don't even have enough people watching it to say, "Wow, that sucks." You know?
Okay, Corey, don't be saying that. You don't know that. How do you know? Oh, okay, yeah, you can. I guess you can. As far as watching it, but listening, right. I mean,
right.
You would.
Yeah, the listeners, I am so grateful because honestly, and I said this to you earlier, it's such a currency. The effort is such a currency, and I'm so grateful for people spending their time and their effort and their attention on consuming the things I have to say that I think might be interesting. Right. You know what I mean? I'm not just going against every podcast there is. I'm going against everything there is. Like right. You could be playing Words with Friends instead of listening to something. You could be doing something else. So it's like I'm so grateful, and I'm so grateful that I got your time like now twice at this point.
And you're so lucky.
I
You're
know.
Probably one of the most luckiest man, because it's only one time with me. That's it. You only get my attention one time. That's it.
All right. Well, I guess this is the last time we're doing this.
No, I'm kidding. No, thank you. I appreciate you asking me. I mean, like I said, when I first spoke to you, I thought you were doing like a wrestling show. Wow. So I'm like, where am I going to fit in this? But no, I get what you're doing. I do appreciate you asking me to be on.
I want to switch. I'm gonna have 2 or 3 more things, and then I'll let you go if that's okay. Just real quick. So I know you already said you were kind of interviewing me, but let me give you this opportunity to turn it around, and you can say or ask me anything.
Gosh, I feel
as if this is your show.
Okay. So what are you thinking? What is the first thing you're going to do after? Well, I shouldn't say after. What do you think you'd be doing now if this whole pandemic wasn't going on? How do you see your life? How would you have seen your life going if we didn't have this pandemic going? Well, like at this moment, what would you have been doing?
I think, well, honestly, I mean, I was acting like as a living, just doing like background work before all this ended. And that's like how I was making my main money. And you know, like, I would probably that short film that we put out would probably be in the festivals at this point. hopefully that would be getting me more work. That's like what I really wanted. That's not the only thing I wanted it to do well for, but I think it's enjoyable, and I think people should have watched it. I would just continue to do these shows. Like I for sure know that, and I say this all the time, and I might have already said it on your podcast. It feels like everything I do fuels everything else I'm doing, right? Like I'm doing wrestling, and people know my name through wrestling, and that feeds the podcast. And I'm doing comedy because it feeds the podcast. I'm doing acting because it'll take people back to listening to the podcast. And it's just like as all those things move in a circular motion, the more listeners and the more people paying attention to the podcast, the better I can get at it. You know what I mean? The more I can put them out, it's not like the stakes are any higher or lower, but it's like my voice can be heard and the message can be delivered a little bit more thoroughly. And I mean, I honestly think like if I stay getting low numbers forever, whatever, because I know this stuff is going to outlive me. So if somebody listens to this in 30 years and it helps their day or helps their week or goes, oh man, you got to check this show out, it really changed my life, I'll feel like I've accomplished something. So all these accomplishments that I'm getting are feeding this, which will then feed my spirit. You know?
Oh, that's so sweet of you to say that. What about so why did you put together the podcast?
Well, honestly, it was honestly like we were talking about, I was inspired by a lot of people's podcasts, and it was that we'd end Wrestle Rock, and it would only be an hour, and during the week I'd think of a really funny joke or a really smart thing to say, and then I'd forget to say it in that 1 hour. So I wanted to stop like limiting myself, and I also for a really long time wanted to write a book. I wanted to write an autobiography, but I know I'm not anybody yet that matters. I mean, like nobody's gonna care to read it. And I was like, plus, and then like if I write it, and then 10 years from now, I don't really agree with something I said in the book, like somebody will read it and be like, hey, I didn't agree with this. I'm like, I don't agree with it either. So instead, I'd have a podcast that would come out every week where if I said a thing last week that I don't agree with this week, I can easily change my opinion on it. So it's not published and on print, but this is on record. So I looked at audio being the new literature in that whole thing.
Yeah. So about my last question for you. You say you do comedy. What kind of comedian are you? You know, there's different types of comedians. What type are you?
I hope that my comedy is as much just like me as it can be. Like I want to just be pretty genuine with it. Honestly, I think
like, do you tell jokes?
Observational. There's some, yeah, it's jokes. I do some like dad jokes and some puns in my comedy, like mixed in with like some premises, like some good stories. Like I've been starting my sets, and I've said it on this podcast a billion times already, but I've been starting my sets by saying, can we all do ourselves a favor and stop comparing ourselves to other people? Like if you look at somebody and you're like, wow, that guy's got a nice body, he's got a nice house, he's got a lot of money, he must have it all figured out. Don't do that to yourself. The way I look at it is, you know, birds, they still get hit by cars. They've got the whole sky. Not everybody's got it all figured out.
That was a good one. Is that a joke?
Yeah. It's like you know, like just because somebody seems like they got it all together, or their Facebook page says they got it all together, they're struggling just like you are.
Right. All right. That was it. Those were my questions, Corey.
Okay. All right. So your daughter is 9 now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's say time machine, audio time travel.
Mm-hmm.
In in 15 years, she's going to listen to this show. She's going to hear a message directed towards her, like, absolutely. What is that message? And you're traveling into 15 years in the future right now.
I still love you no matter what.
That's it.
That's
That's a short ass message.
Well,
Dude, I'm very confident. I'm very confident that you're gonna be a great person, Lisa's daughter. you got a great mom.
She is a great person already, Corey.
No, but I mean a great adult is what I mean.
Yeah, she is. Yes, she does have a great, amazing mother. So she will be a great. She'll be a great adult. No, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think she will. I really do.
Okay. So hypothetically, I know this almost isn't going to make sense because you already have a podcast, but I say hypothetically, I've gifted you this podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
So from now on, the show is going to be called Evolving with Lisa, right? And this episode has been your very first episode, the pilot episode of your new podcast. In a very Jerry Springer's final thought type of way, what can we take away from it, and what lessons can help us evolve to a better version of ourselves tomorrow than we are today?
Corey, what the heck kind of question is that?
It's not a question. It's not a question. There was no question mark. It was just, so what's your message? What's your message?
Message?
That's Jerry Springer's final thought.
What? Jerry Springer. My message is that two people from extremely different backgrounds can still have an amazing conversation.
Oh, well, great. I'm glad that you thought this conversation was amazing.
Quote unquote.
Amazing.
No, seriously.
Quote unquote interesting conversation.
No, we were able to converse. That's my point.
Yeah.
That's my point. Conversation still occurred. Things were still learned. That's it.
Okay. So I hope that you can do this again with me. And I really appreciated your time. I think you're lovely, and I'm so grateful. I'm very grateful. And, I'm glad that this is still just the beginning. You know what I mean? Like, this is just the beginning of our friendship. And I hope that it's got layers that go beyond today.
You're my homeboy. Don't worry.
Yeah. I like having home girls.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I feel the same.
And anybody listening, if this is your first time listening to the show and you haven't heard me say this a million times, if you ever feel like you just need some judgment-free conversation, you feel like you don't have somebody there to talk to, there's always somebody to talk to. And if not, I'm not hard to get a hold of. Reach out to me, and we'll talk. You just need some judgment-free conversation. And that absolutely applies to you as well, Lisa. Don't ever feel like you'd be stepping outside of a boundary to ask me something. I'm absolutely happy to answer any questions or talk about any topics. Nothing's off limits for me. And I hope that instead of just living on autopilot, anyone listening, like just kind of observing your life, you'll decide to maybe be deliberately a creator in your existence. If you're held up on something, get out of your way. Get out of your way. And make sure you subscribe to the podcast, Evolving with Corey Castle, on everything, and Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube as well. You can follow it on YouTube. Just type in CORYKASTLE, Corey Castle, on YouTube. And this has been another podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have, and we've all grown some. Have fun, be safe, be fun, have safe, keep evolving. Thanks a lot, Lisa.
Bye.
Bye.